ambitious climate project that you'll come across. And that's why it's crazily ambitious and at the same time absolutely necessary in order to avert climate catastrophe. It's called a global call to action, and it's a large-scale plan to cool the planet. So we did research in which we wrote down a book called Cooling the Climate. Peter Banyard, who is a very renowned climate scientist, and myself. And in that research, we found out that while we all know that greenhouse gases warm up the planet, the part that is forgotten is actually that ecosystems, especially tropical rainforests, actually have a large capacity to cool locally and, if they're large enough, globally. I can all send you the PDF of the book if you ask it to me in the chat or somewhere. But basically, what we found out was that if we can restore 2.5 million square kilometers of tropical rainforests, which is something the size of Argentina, so it's a big thing. But then the total impact on the global climate would be a 1 degree centigrade cooling. In other words, while the world is struggling to get out of carbon emissions, we can accelerate the process of fighting the climate crisis by regenerating large-scale the biosphere. The problem is, of course, we see, especially in the eco-restoration alliance, we see hundreds of amazing people doing amazing stuff on the ground, but for now, it's not enough. It needs to scale. But before I'm going to explain to you the technique, what we offer, how to do it, a quick reminder on how forests and vegetation in general cool the planet. We all know photosynthesis. And one part of the photosynthesis story that is always forgotten is that for every molecule of sugar that is made in photosynthesis, a couple of hundred molecules of water are evaporated through the stomata of leaves. That embodies a lot of energy that is taken from the forest floor and up into the atmosphere. So that's local cooling, which forests do excellently, and we know that. It then goes up. And together with small particles called bioaerosols, also produced by that forest, we get cloud forming, we get rain forming, and we get wind forming at cloud level, which pulls in moisture from the oceans. And last but not least, it actually exports latent heat out into space. The total capacity of this cooling system, which is 7 steps, which we written in a little bit complicated paper, anyway, shows how much the cooling capacity of forests work through the atmospheric water cycle. 99% of the cooling by the Amazon rainforest, the tropical rainforest in general, is not done through carbon sequestration. It is done through the atmospheric water cycle, and it's not in the IPCC models. So here, one more time, a little bit more schematic, a little bigger. So when this evapotranspiration actually happens, it's because once water goes from gas back into liquid at cloud form, it creates an underpressure, and that underpressure gets an updraft, and then it gets a side draft, and that actually is how moisture is pulled in from the oceans, and that moisture is recycled through over large forests. In the case of the Amazon, when it was still functioning very well, up to 7 times. It is basically rehydrating its own forest. So back at the planetary level, right now we are in a situation that is hardly recognized by politicians yet, but basically we are in a situation where there are climate tipping points in the system that once they start to be crossed, we get a possibility of a cascading, fast moving, sorry, I just got finally that button was released, Um, we get a cascading, fast-moving acceleration of climate chaos, and all these tipping points are interconnected. So there has been a lot of news lately about the AMOC, the ocean circulation. We all know about the coral reefs. We know about the melting ice sheets. They're all connected, and the only one that is actually happening right now under our nose is that we could actively and directly intervene with is the Amazon dieback. And the Amazon is extremely important. I call it the Earth's largest active cooling organ. It's an organ of a living planet, which is now degrading so much, and it's going basically in sort of in decay very fast. And that is what we have to stop and reverse. And that is what this project in the first phase is all about. So we can stop this tipping point. We have probably 5 to 10 years. You probably know that the largest extreme droughts in the Amazon region were in 2023 and 2024, and the largest river system in the world basically collapsed. And with that, also this atmospheric water cycle. And at the same time, lo and behold, global temperatures spiked. There is a relation between the spiking of global temperatures and the dysfunctioning of the tropical rainforest, including, by the way, also the Congo, the ones in Indonesia, etc. So restoring the Amazon at scale is absolutely necessary in order to avert catastrophic climate change. We calculated that if the whole forest would go, and that can go in a matter of decades because it dries out in an exponential form, we'll get an additional 2 to 2.5 degrees of warming on this planet. So basically, it's civilizational collapse. In this process, by the way, the whole world is focused on carbon. We'll sequester a whole lot of carbon. So there you are. And that is exactly how we hope to also get paid for it. But the most important thing is to improve the atmospheric water cycle through the regeneration of forests. Keep that in mind. It goes for all projects, especially in the tropics. So then how do you do that? An area the size of the contiguous United States, roughly the size of Europe, with thousands, no, millions of people somehow hacking away at it in all kinds of forms. And all the initiatives that are taken basically are not stopping the destruction. Well, the proposal is very simple, actually. Pay everybody in the forest to restore or protect the forest. And that is exactly the solution that we are now starting to build, which is a digital financial platform whereby through satellite monitoring and satellite internet, everybody will get connected in that area to the digital world and receive information and finance to, and while we observe what they're doing in their area, to basically regenerate their own area. And if you do that, it's roughly 1 million plus people that actually live in the forest, not in the cities, but in the forest itself. A lot of them indigenous people. If they all get paid to regenerate their own nick of the woods, then together it will help restore the forest. So this is the first tipping point in the world that we can actually avert by this system. So how do we want to do that? And now it gets a little bit more technical. We are launching the ARARA digital financial platform. Why do you see that amazingly beautiful bird there, the scarlet macaw? Because ARARA is exactly the sound that he makes, and that is also the name of the bird in Tupinamba, the local indigenous language of the forest dwellers. And ARARA is now announcing the regeneration of the forest. So, and where does it get technical? I'll get a little bit into the phases first, but basically the whole idea is that we can more and more with satellite observation, we can do very granular observation of what's happening on the ground. Sometimes there are already some that can observe something the size of a kitchen table. And we focus on 6, and in the end, 7 coins or 7 nature-based solutions that we are going to make machine readable, put it on blockchain, and so that all these thousands, in the end, millions of projects, not just in the Amazon, later on in Africa and other places, can actually be registered automatically and see updates of what is happening there. We start with carbon, because that's the one sort of established, although that market is still a wild west. But anyway, we have to start somewhere. But the other ones, as you can see here, are air, water, soil, biodiversity, and equity. I won't go too deep into it, don't have the time, but equity is one of the most important drivers of, let's say, of getting areas regenerated and healthy. And the last one, which is not here yet, is that the total impact of all these 6 coins is actually cooling. And one of the things I hope is that once in the next couple of years is going to be understood that if you sequester carbon in a rainforest, its cooling capacity for that carbon credit is much higher, then the price of those carbon credits will go up, and we can finance the regeneration of our forest. So here is roughly the flow of that process. It's basically process management on a digital financial platform. So people get registered on the platform, then their land, their polygons are registered on that platform. The computer program, which is based in this case on a program called FarmTree, will show a baseline what's there on that polygon right now. And it will show a proposal how to do regenerative landscape design on that polygon, which focuses first and all on income, because that is the main driver for people to put food on the table. So how you can see then how online, how a piece of land will evolve over time. And also how much cash comes out of there for produce or for carbon credits, etc. But you can also see how the situation is improving in terms of hydrology, soil health, etc. We have most of these tools already working. Now we have to integrate them. The next step is the farmer or the indigenous community accepts a proposal, and then we get to the financing, because you need finance to do the transition. So if they agree, the program calculates more or less how much money is necessary to do that transition. And then they get a loan, which doesn't have to be paid back as long as the trees grow, because that is the asset that basically secures the loan, which are the carbon credits that will come out of the system in the future. So the money goes into a wallet on their mobile phone, and they can spend it to do the transition. We can monitor this from the satellites. That's the MRV, the monitoring, reporting, and verification phase, and that can be done automated. And then a piece of land issues carbon credits because the trees grow. And with that finance, the loan is paid back, and even if it goes well, they even get money from the carbon credits after, let's say, 5, 6, 7 years. And then, of course, we have to go to the world and say, okay, we have so many carbon credits. First, give us money to fund this thing, and you get the carbon credits of the future. And secondly, we can start selling them on the market. So basically, this system connects the large financiers to the smallholders and the indigenous people on the ground without any bureaucracy. It's roughly done automatically. So who are we? Well, we are a global coalition of people who think, first of all, that we need to scale fast in order to avert the climate crisis, in this case, the collapse of the Amazon rainforest, which in itself is big enough to push the world into a catastrophe. And here are some of our advisors. Atossa Sultani, she heads the Sacred Headwaters Project. And we hope to have a pilot project with them in Ecuador. Professor Carlos Nobre, who is completely behind the idea that if we pay everybody in the forest to protect the forest, this is probably the solution that we're missing right now. Well, myself, you're already here talking enough. Stuart Cohen, I don't know if he's still already here, but anyway, he runs the Buckminster Fuller Institute and has been helping with some early fundraising. And there's other people here, which I will not, including John Schul as the last one in the row, who is the co-founder of the Eco Restoration Alliance. And he's a great person to talk to and give advice on how to develop these things. So what we're actually doing is building a digital financial middle layer to connect large finance with smallholder farmers and people on the ground. In the end, it could also be for Nakivali, just via a phone. No longer large project descriptions, reporting. 80% of the time and energy and money usually goes into this process. We can get that down to maybe 10%. So we have a lot of partners the technical partners that will help us build this. First of all, Open Forests. I'll put a link in the chat later on. They have amazing mapping systems that include 30-odd real-time satellite data streams that you can see how land is evolving. Farmtree.earth is a startup in Holland that actually can do the regenerative landscape design with a huge, probably unique database in the world. Quaxale is a company that basically has found a way to get regenerative finance on a balance sheet of companies so that they can buy into regeneration. Landscope and Sylvie.earth, they are other applications. I'm not going to give you too many details, but I can tell you that they're doing amazing tool sets to do regenerative landscape design and monitoring. And all together, we can build this ARARA platform and then scale it. And once it is working, Ross, can you, I don't know what you're doing over there. You're cooking soup or something. Can you mute, please?
I got him.
Thank you. Okay, so there are a lot of large-scale projects in the Amazon to do protect and restore areas. Amazon Sacred Headwaters does 35 million hectares. That's something the size of Italy. Planavec, the Arc of Restoration, we're all talking areas the size of European countries, and yet none of them actually are getting the impact that they really want. I think Planavec has done about 10 to 15% of their initial goal so far, way behind schedule. So once we can apply ARARA as a middle layer to their solutions and they can onboard their projects, then the monitoring, etc., and the financing can accelerate very quickly. So we're looking at 4 pilot projects right now. The first one is underway. We planted 1 million trees there, but then we ran out of money as usual, which is quite often with our kind of projects. But this is going to be different after we started ARARA. It's on the northeast of the Amazon in Brazil. And so the Sacred Headwaters project I already talked about in Ecuador. We're looking at possibly applying the ARARA on a 10,000 hectare pilot project there. In Colombia, we're talking to Gaia Amazonas, which is currently setting up a new indigenous autonomous area of a couple of million hectares, and they want to pilot with us. And then there's another project that I am not connected with, but Open Forest, one of our tech partners, it's with the Yawanawa in Acre. So we'll get that online too. So right now we just started the 175,000 funding sprint. Actually, we got 50,000 already from initial donors. That's on top of that we need that on top of the 175. So we already knew that we secured that, and we're starting to build. But in order to get everything done and then present the prototype on on the COP30 and then actually tickle large investors, because we're not done yet. It's just the first phase. Then from there, we can build out the whole platform, the full stack platform, and start deploying it in pilot projects. And basically, it can be the middle layer for, in the end, enough projects to cool our climate. So I won't bother you with all the implementation timelines, but right now we're kicking off with the building, which has just started, the crowdfunding, which I hope people can chip in or at least share wide, and I'll send the link in the chat after this, and then present at COP30, and then we're going to talk to the big parties, including the ACTO. We're already in contact with them, the Brazilian Development Bank, which we are talking to, and other projects to say, come on, we need to do this completely, and you can then apply it to your projects. And then it's a matter of scaling, basically, so I won't bother you with all the details. So what will this money do? If we can get this really right, basically we got ourselves a digital financial platform for onboarding, financing, monitoring, and scaling regeneration, and specifically in the tropical zones, because there it's most important, but it could actually be applied also in other areas. The first step would be to avert the tipping point of the dieback of the Amazon, because that needs to be avoided. Otherwise, basically the effects on the world's food stocks, on global temperatures will be so devastating that basically we'll see the collapse of our societies. And then if we can get it to scale even beyond the Amazon rainforest, we can apply it to the total tropical rainforest, with potentially the cooling of the climate, so we can stop the climate from heating up. And to give you an idea, 2.5 million square kilometers is a lot, but there's 500 million global smallholders, farmers around the world that could actually do something on their land and improve their own situation. Then together, it's just a few hectares per family to actually do it. So it's absolutely doable. It's a matter of applying the platform and applying large-scale finance, which then pays back for itself, because the amount of carbon credits that will sequester will bring up to $30 billion a year, which will pay for the whole program and then some. So basically, I'm asking you to support this initiative, which is crazily ambitious and absolutely necessary as a large-scale toolbox to support all the projects that we have been seeing in the Eco-Restoration Alliance passing, because this is the middle layer between big finance and what's happening on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank